Yay! Okay, give him another hand. He's going to show him in a minute. Okay.
And for the next act.
Mark and Holly. They're going to sing about a boogie. He knows what the boys want.
Yeah. Well, that's my earplug.
You'll have to imagine that there's a bucket here somewhere. Sir, can we use your hat? We won't. We promise we won't destroy it.
Hey, you want to use this?
Don't wreck it.
We won't risk it.
Oh, it's a good bucket.
Mark, don't touch this hat.
As long as there's,
Yeah, it's on.
there's no mosquitoes on it, it'd be safe.
Yeah, those mosquitoes in Alaska are really bad. I'm glad I went up there in the wintertime.
Yeah, they file flight plans in the summertime.
Okay, this is Henry.
Hey, Henry.
Oh, Henry.
And I don't know what my name is.
This is Liza.
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 Not Manelli.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, that's right. I got it.
There's a hole in the bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Henry, a hole.
Then fix it, dear Liza, dear Liza, dear Liza. Then fix it, dear Liza.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. We have our parts reversed.
What shall I fix?
It's a wait a minute joke.
Well, it's a no-telling show.
With what? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is delayed
With
television.
what shall I fix it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fix it, dear Liza? With what?
With some straw, dear Henry, dear Henry. With some straw, dear Henry. Dear Henry, with some straw.
But the straw is too wet, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too wet, dear Liza. Too wet. Too wet.
It's a too
Okay,
wet.
so it's long and wet. Okay. It's too long and wet.
Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Cut it.
With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what?
With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry. A knife.
The knife is too dull, dear Liza, dear Liza. The knife is too dull, dear Liza, too dull.
Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then sharpen it, dear Henry. Sharpen it.
With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza? With what?
With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry. A stone.
The stone is too wet, dear Liza, dear.
Dry.
Dry? Okay.
He's on a wet kick.
The straw is wet, the stone is dry. Okay. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. The stone is too dry. What do you want? It's a no-talent show. Too dry.
Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Wet it.
With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what?
With some water, dear Henry, dear Henry. With some water, dear Henry, dear Henry. Water.
With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza? With what?
With a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry. Bucket.
There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. A hole.